Are you a leader who's ready to go from stuck to unstoppable? It's time to stop leading on autopilot and start leading with purpose. Through my Leadership with Purpose program and next level coaching, you'll gain the clarity and confidence and tools to lead from within so you can make a greater impact without burning out. Build stronger teams, crush self doubt, lead with clarity and conviction, and unlock your next level of leadership. Don't settle for good leadership. Step into your greatness. Visit warrenwandling.com to learn more and start your journey today. Your next level of leadership starts now. Welcome back to our episode to How to Become an Obstacle Buster. This is your host, Warren Wandling, the show that's dedicated at helping leaders and entrepreneurs to overcome their obstacles, build resilience, and achieve success. And I have an interesting guest with us today, Philip Atkinson. Welcome to the show, Philip.
Hello, Warren. It's lovely to connect across the airwaves. Thank you.
Yes, I'm really looking forward to our conversation. I love the concept of be wise. What first inspired you to connect leadership with beekeeping?
Thank you. Let me tell you a quick story, but it's a story. I was working for a large multinational drug company, and I was working and studying organizational change and coaching and transformation. That was my day job. That was work. And I was studying and loved it at work.
Mm-hmm.
At home, I was looking for a hobby that was nothing at all to do with work. And I was always interested by beekeeping, and it's a family thing. So I joined the local beekeeping club. And I thought, great, I've got two separate things. This is good. I've got work and I've got home. And of course, I realized, and then I was one day sitting outside my building, my office building at work, and people on a hot summer's day at the bus stop, people were arriving, carrying ideas and bringing ideas and experience and coming through a small front door of an office. And inside the office, there was different layers, and everyone was busy, and there was an amazing product, and everyone was so busy you couldn't see exactly what was happening, but there was a real buzz. And all of a sudden, it hit me: beekeeping is a great metaphor for leadership. And since then, for me, the two worlds have become closer and closer entwined.
That is a fascinating metaphor and the connection of both worlds. In your book, you say, don't be busy as a bee. That's really counterintuitive for most leaders. Can you kind of expand upon that idea?
Yeah, actually, the way the book is structured, first of all, we talk about the bees. Bees are busy, busy, busy. They don't sleep. They work in the summer. They work non-stop, night and day, for about 34 days, and then die of exhaustion. So there's a fact about the bees. Now, at work, we are busier and busier, and we're traveling, and we're always present, and we've got more apps, and we've got more communication channels. My hypothesis is, for leaders, for parents, for brothers, community volunteers, everybody, to slow down and be a little bit more conscious. Because our competitive advantage is not doing more of the same stuff. It is actually thinking bigger about the bigger problems that we face and how to make a difference. That's where our competitive advantage comes from. And that takes a bit of pausing and time to think. Don't just wake up and start rushing through the same list that we've always done. You ain't going to win.
Yeah, I love that idea because you're right. In reference to today's world, we're really distracted. And we find our busyness trying to fill that void of that distraction. So if we stay more busier, that helps to interrupt that distraction. So what's the obstacle you think that leaders run into to find themselves the need to be busy?
Yeah, it's a good question. What's the obstacle? There are lots of obstacles. Well, actually, I think the first one is just people get stuck in a pattern of doing what they've always done. And actually, we don't fix problems. We don't think about them enough. We don't look at them from a different angle or a different perspective or challenge them. So really, it's a pattern. Patterns of behavior get reinforced. Actually, at work, often a bonus or a goal is based on how much stuff you have done. And that was based on how much stuff you did the year before. What I'm interested in is helping leaders actually to do different stuff. Let's tackle bigger problems. Let's think more about our customers. Let's think more about product innovation. Let's think more about the environment. We all have a chance to make a bigger contribution to the world by actually challenging old perceptions.
So your idea that you're challenging leaders is to pause and to actually think more about their situation for solutions.
Exactly. Yeah.
So is one of the ways of leaders that can do that is through journaling?
Journaling. Yep. Well, any reflective practice is useful. Journaling, going for a walk, talking to a colleague outside of the office. All the best ideas in life have never ever happened inside a meeting room. The best ideas come from discussions and walking and talking and connecting ideas, connecting different people, connecting different viewpoints. That's what I advocate. Don't just start with a list and get on ticking off things as we've always done. Let's have a bit of fun and let's open up new ways of looking at stuff.
So why do you think leaders struggle with that idea in reference to pausing, engage in collaboration to be able to think big?
I think there's an industry problem where leadership is actually not taught or respected as a skill. And you might be promoted to being a head of a group because you were good at being a member of the group. Being a member of the group and being the head of it is two different things. And also we learn leadership from the previous leader. And it doesn't mean they were any good either. Actually, let's have some fun with this. Let's acknowledge that we need to learn leadership. We need to think about it. We need to reflect on it. We need to improve our skills. We need to improve kind of the breadth of our vision. And let's, we're all good humans. Let's be good humans at work. And let's, I love this work. It's absolutely fascinating. Don't be a cookie cutter of the previous boss, and then it just carries on. Stop and pause and think more.
Yeah, that's really great insight around leadership. Certainly, if there's like an emerging leader, if they didn't get training before moving in that position, you're exactly right. They're going to emulate of what the leadership they were just recently under.
Exactly. And we do. The world is different. The world is changing. The world is different this time next week to what it was 5 years ago, and it's constantly changing. So we actually need to constantly adapt and learn and grow and think and behave differently. And leadership is a responsibility. We have a responsibility to do this. It's become my mission. It's a fascinating topic.
Yeah, so part of that responsibility is a topic you focus on is that 50,000 bees make anonymous decisions. That's really fascinating that they're able to make a decision, that many bees in one location. So how can leaders take that same idea and bring their ideas back to clarity of how they can make better choices?
I mean, first of all, let's acknowledge, a leader, a team meeting is about taking decisions. And the first thing I want to say is that not all decisions are the same types of decisions. And actually before a leadership team takes a decision, it's worth thinking just for a minute, how are we going to take this decision? Often there's a discussion where some people speak up and some don't, and then they go with the leader. And no, think harder about how you are going to take this decision. Some decisions are really simple, and let's trust someone to take it. Some require more thought or more consensus. That's the first thing. The second thing is let's learn from the bees. Now, when a bee community, when a beehive are looking for a new home, that's called a swarm. And that is a life or death decision. So it has to be right, or else the whole colony will die. And very simply, scout bees go off in different directions to find a new home, and then they come back. And the scout bees come back and they tell their story through a waggle dance. 10 bees tell 10 different stories, and the rest of the community at home kind of really go, okay, which bee is telling the most compelling story? And then they go and get a second opinion. So some bees go with B1, and some bees go with the second bee, and then they get consensus, and then they come back. And they might have narrowed the options down to 2 or 3. And then more bees check it out, and then they come back. And then so there is dissent, there is disagreement, there is fact finding. They look for alternatives, and then when they are happy they have consensus, all of the bees align. So that means the bees that had a different opinion originally follow the consensus. And 100% of the bees all go to the new place. And they have a very high rate of survival. It's an amazing decision process. And it's a life or death decision. And they have evolved over millions of years to do it very well.
So with that idea, how can leaders take that concept to be able to implement it if they're leading a team?
Yeah, it's a good question. So, in a team meeting, let's say there are 3 different decisions to take. One might be a big strategic decision that requires a lot of thought and thinking and analysis and opinions. And we need to hear from everybody. And that takes time, and that's a big decision. A separate decision might be, which venue are we going to go for our company conference? Now, it doesn't take everybody, we can spend hours. I mean, that particular example, I've just been with a client this week, and the team was wasting hours talking about the conference venue. Well, everyone has an opinion, everyone talks, everyone goes around in circles, and there is no criteria how the team takes a decision. People talk about it for ages, and it's not productive. So let's spend a few minutes before we take a decision agreeing how we are going to do it, and let's follow that discipline. All decisions are not equal. And let's just agree beforehand what we're going to do. And that means adding a little bit more thought first. The team will thank you for it.
So that sounds like in reference to a framework of how we make decisions within a team.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And a good leader should throw some light onto what are we doing? What is our process? How are we working together? And then everyone knows their role and can contribute accordingly.
So when a team is first coming together, trying to improve that communication, do they come with a consensus of how they make decisions and making sure that everyone's on the same page?
Well, yes. And actually, be more conscious about how you are taking a decision. Some decisions, it's the boss takes a decision and just get on with it. I'm taking the decision. This is what we need to do. Get on with it. At least find what you're doing. A different decision might be the boss saying, "I don't know the answer. Let's hear from everyone. Let's crowdsource. Let's collect the data. Let's analyze, and let's make the right decision together." That's a different type of process. One is by consent. You're letting the boss take the decision, and one is by consensus, and they are 2 different processes. And that's 2 of a number of frameworks for decision making.
So where bees get it right is they align with the final decision and all agree. Oftentimes in leadership teams, even though they've come to a decision, there's dissension within the group. How would you coach your clients to be able to all align with the same decision so they can be on the same mission and focus?
And okay, let's turn this into a real life example. Let's talk about budget setting.
Okay.
Or forecasting. It's not a surprise. We know it's coming, and people might not agree. But let's spend some moments before we have the discussion agreeing how we are going to take the decision, and is it important that we have consensus or not? And then as a leadership team, we need to show up as a single, unified group, actually, to provide guidance and inspiration for the whole organization. So let's anticipate, how are we going to deal with this? And it just means, the leader being more aware, asking better questions, listening, and thinking through the scenario. If you don't do that and you just carry on kind of as normal, and there's dissent, there will be dissent in the room whether people speak up or not. It exists. And then what happens outside of the leadership team? Organizations know and sense if there is agreement or not, and you need to address that, and that is where good leadership comes from.
Yeah, excellent. In reference to helping our leaders that are trying to sharpen their communication skills within their team to come up with the decisions and making sure that everyone's on the same page.
Yeah. And
So the
actually,
hive is a learning organism. What can leaders take from the ideas about continuous learning and adaptability?
first of all, let's look at the bees. I don't know if you know, when you see a bee flying on a summer's day, when a bee lands and is collecting pollen on a beautiful flower, that is its last job. That's the end of its life, because being a foraging for pollen and nectar is the bee's seventh job. Before then, inside the hive, it has done 6 different jobs, one after the other. When they first hatch, they are trained by the previous bees to become nurses, and they nurse the larvae and they look after them. And they do that for 3 or 4 days, and then they train the bees that have just hatched to do their job, and then they are trained to do the next job, which is completely different, which is being a builder. And they build those beautiful hexagonal wax frames. And then that carries on. The bee doesn't fly out on the flowers until the very end of its career. Now, if we apply that to organizations, we're not going to follow exactly what they do, but actually let's encourage people to be very good at what they do now, and to keep learning and keep training and keep thinking what else is needed. If you're in sales, try working in marketing. If you're in marketing, try working in finance. If you work in finance, try working in legal. You might not like them, and great, you've learned something, leave. But keep moving, keep learning, keep understanding how the whole business works. In the old days, we had very, very vertical paths. And my encouragement to be fit for purpose today, you need more of a horizontal matrix career, and keep learning and keep contributing. It's exciting.
Yeah, that's a great idea in reference to continuous learning. It's the growth mindset that Carol Dweck in her book, The Grit, talks about, right? Sometimes leaders fight against the idea in reference to that setting time to do continuous growth. How have you worked with other leaders in the past to be able to give them the inspiration to start growing in their leadership?
My general philosophy is a bit higher than that, first of all, and it's a leader should hire great people and let them be great. And part of being great is learning and growing. And we all know from employee engagement surveys, the reason people join a company is because of the company. The reason they leave is because of the boss. And the second reason people leave is they don't have training and development opportunities. Now, also, training and development is not just the company's responsibility, it's the individuals. And I really encourage individuals to think about, where is the world evolving? What do I like doing? What gives me joy? What am I good at? What are my unique skills? What is my unique contribution? And to keep learning inside the company, outside the company, in the community, as a volunteer, anything. Keep moving. Don't be static, because don't be static. Evolution will happen around you.
Yeah, I love that advice for the leaders that are listening that want to be able to stay focused, finishing strong for the end of the year, and then start planning what's the leadership skills they should be working on for next year.
And let's take AI for an example, of course. We actually don't know what jobs we need in 5 years' time. But good leadership will be needed. And, we used to call them soft skills. Well, I call them core skills. How to be a good human at work, how to listen, how to be more aware, how to ask great questions, how to think through problems are essential skills that can't be taken by AI and are needed in all organizations.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think certainly as AI continues to emerge, that leadership skills is definitely not a soft skill. It's definitely a skill that needs to be studied, mastered, and practiced. because the human element's not going to go away. People need that connection.
Let's hope so.
Right, otherwise we're all in trouble, right? If the leaders begin to feel overwhelmed or they feel stuck, what's one small be wise step they can take this week to help them move forward with clarity and connection?
First of all, being overwhelmed or stuck is happening all the time. Just the amount of data and the channels and the information and the change in the world. So let's acknowledge it's a thing. And then actually what I'd love to recommend is switch off, leave your desk, get some fresh air, see the horizon, see the sky, go for a walk with a friend, go for a walk with a colleague, switch off and slow down. And then then you can look back at work with a bit more perspective. What are the big things that need doing? But really it's about self-management. It's not about being as busy as a bee. It is actually looking after yourself and consciously helping a team to slow down, consciously helping people to connect better.
Yeah, I love that idea, to be able to slow down and doing something counterintuitive, like getting out of the office, taking a walk, reflecting, will actually probably increase up your productivity.
And it might focus you on perhaps the more important things.
Exactly. Focus on what matters most.
Yeah.
So you've written in the book, worker bees are never stop learning. And we've discussed that. But what's one daily habit that you personally do that helps you to stay on track and develop in your leadership?
Well, I do try and practice what I preach. So actually slowing down, connecting, really being fully present. If I'm in a meeting, I'm there to do the right job. And actually, I put my phone away consciously. I put my laptop closed. I'm there. It's the human element. I'm there to be fully present and to connect with other people. There is a second. I'm just going to add a bit of fun. There's something I'm practicing doing to follow the don't be as busy as a bee. For all my career, every day I've started the day with a to-do list. And it's just longer and longer, and I'll never finish it. I'm now practicing or playing with having a do not do list.
I kind of like that idea.
Yeah, a do not do list. And there are always things that I do that are a distraction or easy to start and make me feel busy. And no, it's at the very bottom of that grid of what's important and what's urgent. But it makes you feel busy and it makes you feel productive and it makes you feel good. No, stop it. Make a list of what you're not going to do and therefore leave time for the big important stuff that you've been putting off.
I love that idea. That also will give more focus for the leader to know how not to be distracted, right? Because they've made a list of what they're not going to do.
Yeah.
Which will help probably if they're feeling overwhelmed, that's going to help eliminate some of that as well.
And then actually good role modeling is to discuss that with your leadership team. What are we not going to do as a leadership team? And that might mean, talking for hours about which conference city we're going to go to. It's not productive. It's the wrong use of our decision-making power. Let's agree what we're not going to do.
Yeah, I love that framework because most times it's unsaid, but I think it's being intentional in reference to what you're not going to focus on. So you're really intentional about what to focus on during that workday.
Yeah, and as as a leader, you talk about blocking and obstacles. Well, actually, an expectation that we've always done it this way is an obstacle. It's an unspoken obstacle. Well, let's shine a light on that and say, look, let's look at it differently this year.
So finally, what impact do you hope that Be Wise will have on leaders, how they approach work and purpose?
Yeah, there's two things, and I'm just going to hold the book up here. Be Wise: 12 leadership lessons from inside a busy hive. The big theme is I want people to just stop and pause and think and be more conscious about how they show up as a leader in the world. But it's actually not just at work. It's about as parents, as fathers, as brothers, as community volunteers, as citizens. We all actually need to stop and pause and think and challenge our old patterns of behavior that just keep on happening. And the second impact I'm trying to make is that all proceeds from the sales of the book go to a charity. And the charity is called beesfordevelopment.org. And they do amazing work to support families in developing countries to have a bee business to pay for their kids' education. So really, that's my gift to the world, is by sharing my thinking, and there's a lot of interest in this book, every purchase goes straight to the charity. I love it. It's brilliant fun.
That is brilliant, and be able to give back to the community and develop leaders in the same process.
Yeah.
So I know our listeners are wanting to be able to connect with you. What is the best way for them to be able to reach out?
Great. Thank you for asking. So my name is Philip Atkinson. I'm on LinkedIn, Philip Atkinson Hive Logic. My company is called hivelogic.com. It's hive with a hyphen logic.com. But the book, Be Wise, it's on Amazon. There is also a website where you can learn more about the project and the charity, and the website is called bewisebook.com. Simple. We're on Instagram and Facebook, exactly the same, Be Wise Book.
Yeah, perfect. Philip, I'll make sure all of those links are in the show notes.
Thank you, Warren. Thank you.
Well, actually, is there a last tip that you'd like to share with our leaders, something that you've learned from your working with bees that would make an impact in their leadership skills?
We've talked about pausing. We've talked about pausing and thinking, and then there's a very relevant one. At the weekend, I was rushing into my beehive, and I was in a hurry. I was very, very task focused, and I had to take the lid off and put some sugar in. And I was so task focused, the bees were not ready. There was a storm coming. The bees were anxious. The bees were upset because a storm was coming, and I got stung. Now there's some feedback. So let me play that into the world of a leader. Sometimes you do need to be task focused and get something done. But if you just pause and think about it, what's going to happen, what's going to be triggered, what's the best way to implement a new change, what's the best way to launch a new initiative or a new project, and just by being a little bit more conscious and understanding the system, you avoid being stung.
That is really great insight. Well, thank you so much for sharing all your tips, strategies for our leaders so they can break through their obstacles and build resilience.
Great, Warren. Thank you very much.
This is your host, Warren Wandling, saying until next time, be an obstacle buster and be resilient.